Welcome to Coronavirus Getting Answers. We continue to provide you with the latest information surrounding the pandemic. Thanks for joining us here on ABC 40. I'm Brittany Murphy.
Yeah, that's what this show's all about. I'm Taylor Jacobs. So we got some questions for our microbiologist in just a moment. Before we get to all that, let's just get you up to speed on what's making headlines with this virus. So we'll start with this. The attorneys general from multiple states, including Massachusetts, they say they're considering taking legal action against the Trump administration and the United States Postal Service. Also, Holyoke City councilors, they're calling for a formal investigation into Mayor Alex Morse. We'll have more on that here throughout the day. Plus, the 1st Congressional District primary debate, it kicks off tonight. Details on that as well here throughout the day. All right, time to start getting answers about the coronavirus from a local expert. We're joined on the phone by Dr. Erika Hamilton, microbiologist from UMass Amherst. Hey, Dr. Hamilton. So we'll start with this one here. The Basketball Hall of Fame ceremony, it's actually been moved over to Connecticut, much to the chagrin of those in Springfield. But the question here for you is their reasoning is to get a bubble over there. So what is a bubble? Is it just to kind of keep everybody contained?
Yeah, that is kind of what it is. So a bubble refers to a group of people who will stay in isolation together. And the NBA is trying this with players and support staff and coaches in order to attempt to have a season this year. Basketball is a bad sport for COVID. It would be very, very easy for the players to spread COVID to each other because they have to get so close to each other during the game. And once the players start passing it to each other, it's going to go to their families and people who work for the teams and the coaches and everybody else. And so what the NBA is trying is they're putting all the players who want to play together into these bubbles where everyone will work together, they'll eat together, but there will be no contact with the outside. And so hopefully if everyone follows the rules and no one has outside contact, COVID won't be able to get in and they won't have an outbreak.
Now, when it comes to people who have survived COVID, could their blood plasma actually help other patients who get it?
Yes, and there are some research studies that are either concluding or still continuing right now that show that convalescent plasma, and when you hear convalescent plasma, it's referring to a blood product that's taken from someone who has had COVID. It can help people who are seriously ill from COVID. And it's because the people who have already had COVID have developed these antibodies and they're floating around in their blood. And when you take plasma from these people, you're catching the antibodies. Now, folks who are sick with COVID will develop their own antibodies, but sometimes it can take a couple of weeks. And meanwhile, the patient's getting sicker and sicker and sicker. So if you give them this convalescent plasma, they're getting the antibodies sooner. And hopefully some good research studies will be out soon, and we'll see how effective this is. And if you're interested in giving, contact your local Red Cross.
Very interesting there. And kind of to piggyback off of that antibodies bit you were talking about, the question goes, do COVID-19 survivors have to quarantine if exposed to a current patient?
This depends on when you recovered. So if you're a COVID-19 patient and you come in contact with someone who you know has COVID, if you recovered 3 months or less prior to that contact, you do not have to quarantine. So if you've gotten sick and it's less than 3 months since you recovered from it, even if you come in contact with someone who has COVID, you do not need to quarantine. However, if you got sick a while ago, like back in early spring, and it's been over 3 months since you recovered, and you come in contact with someone with COVID, the CDC is recommending that you quarantine or isolate yourself. The reasoning behind this is that this is a very new virus, and we're learning more every day about it, but we are not entirely sure how long immunity to this will last. And this is sort of a better safe than sorry type of scenario to have people quarantine to ensure that even after 3 months after they've recovered from COVID, they can't catch it again.
That's good info, especially for a whole lot of people out there who are recovering. All right, Dr. Hamilton, thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to more of your insight in the coming days and weeks.
Yeah, no doubt, because Coronavirus Getting Answers is going to keep continuing on here, folks, each weekday at 12:30, as long as this pandemic demands such a thing. We'll have the doc and other pros answer your questions about the pandemic.